We have got some quick Wednesday morning headlines for you right now. He died at the hands of terrorists in Benghazi after Hillary Clinton stalled on sending more security that he requested. And now this is what happens if you try and donate to her campaign on Ambassador Chris Stevens' behalf. It blocks you. But if you donate for Osama bin Laden, the site goes right through. Great. And serving up a cup of controversy, Starbucks' new Unity Cup sparking outrage just days before the election. The new green design features more than 100 people, as you can see right there, drawn with a single line. But some are accusing Starbucks of political brainwashing and spreading liberal bias. There you go. Brian.
All right, Steve. It's in a huge change of heart. One of Donald Trump's most prominent critics recently revealed why she'll be voting for Donald Trump after all.
This is no longer a choice for me on personalities because I'm not a fan of either one. What it is about is policy. The best person based on the policies and dealing with things like Obamacare still is Donald Trump. That doesn't mean it's an easy vote, but it does mean that I'm watching out for the people of South Carolina and I'm watching out for the people of this country, and that's who I will be voting for on November 8th.
Wow, our next guest says this is the lesson to every working American, building off what the governor just said. Here to explain is CrowdPack CEO and former advisor to UK Prime Minister David Cameron, Steve Hilton. Steve, you wrote a column about this, building off the Nikki Haley quote. Why?
Because I think that it goes to the heart of the choice that people have to make in the election, which is what are going to be the real world consequences of the outcome for real people. If you look at what the Clinton campaign are doing, basically the whole campaign along, they've just been saying don't vote for Trump because of his personal behavior. You saw even yesterday where she wheels out Miss Universe. There's no argument
from Venezuela.
That's right. There's no argument about his policies, about his tax plan, his support for school choice, any of that stuff. It's just his personal behavior means he can't be president. Now, if you're rich, you can afford to take that view because, to be honest, if you have a President Clinton and the Democrats and more of the same economic stagnation, it doesn't really affect you. Your life is going to be fine. But if you're a working American who's really struggling to pay the bills, you don't find the job opportunities there, you're worried about the future for your kids, you can't afford to have 4 more years of the same economic stagnation. And that's why you've got to put the real impact before personal behavior and really look at policy.
You're the professional Politico, but if I'm a candidate and I hired you to finish off my campaign, and my best closing argument is how bad the other guy is, I think I'm a failed candidate. It's all they're talking about is how thin-skinned, he doesn't pay taxes, and look at how he views women.
It's really embarrassing if you think about the fact that this is a person, Hillary Clinton, who's basically been plotting and scheming for this for 30 years. And right a few days before her big moment, she hasn't got a single inspiring message about the change that she will bring to real people's lives. She's just slagging off the other guy. It's really kind of embarrassing. And I think when people think about, well, when I come and vote and I really have to think about the impact of my vote on real life, that is the key, crucial factor.
So many people looked at Donald Trump and say, just prove yourself electable. And he kept tripping himself up. For the last 2.5 weeks, all he does is talk about policy. He was getting cheers on policy yesterday and barely brought up emails. Fascinating as we look to see the close of this campaign where most national polls have it within 2 points.
It's exactly right, because all along, right from the beginning, when Trump has been talking about the issues and about real change in real people's lives, he does well. And so when you have, like we saw a headline in the New York Times not long ago, which is, how could anyone vote for Trump?
Yeah, you write that in your column, how could anyone vote for Trump? And you come back, is that really your best argument for voting for Clinton?
That's right. How could anyone vote for Trump? Because they don't want to, they literally can't understand how anyone could support a candidate with those personal characteristics. But that's because they don't want to engage in the real argument about what difference is going to be the result of voting for Trump versus Clinton on the economy, on schools, on healthcare, where he's got the message of change. And all she's saying is basically you're going to end up with more of the same, which has left the rich richer, but half of America earning less today than about 15 years ago.
Who would think a month ago we'd be talking 6 days out, we still don't know who's going to win. But that is exactly the case. Steve Hilton, great to see you. Good job. All right, coming up straight ahead, and we have a Fox News alert, and it's not good news. Breaking right now, 2 cops ambushed, shot dead in their patrol cars, 2 separate attacks. Brand new details just coming in from an emotional press conference with the chief of police. And World Series ratings are surging for the first time in a long time. Protests and a great matchup in baseball. What does the host of Fox NFL Sunday, Mr. Everything, Kurt Menevee, think? We're going to find out. We put a mic on him. I hope he talks.
This is a Fox News alert. It has happened once again. 2 officers ambushed overnight, shot to death, sitting in their squad cars in Iowa.
That's right. Moments ago, a press conference where we learned the shooter apparently still on the loose. Heather Nauer joins us right now with breaking developments out of West Des Moines.
That's right. And it's a terrifying situation for folks who live there and the families of those officers. By the way, we don't know their identities just yet. But we are getting new details about the 2 police officers who were killed overnight in Iowa. They were murdered while sitting in their squad cars. The suspect still on the run, free to kill again. This happened just outside of Des Moines near a high school. In 2 separate locations, the shootings occurred 20 minutes apart. Fellow officers visibly shaken.
In all appearances, it looks just like that these officers were ambushed. It doesn't look like there was any interaction between these officers and whoever the coward is that shot them while they sat in their cars. That's the best we got that we can explain the scene right now. Both of them were in their cars.
Wow, this happened at 1:06 a.m. Central Time. Multiple law enforcement agencies are now involved in a massive manhunt at this hour. It is a breaking story. We're just getting in information, and we will bring you all the latest as the details continue to unfold. Customers bracing for gas prices to spike after a deadly pipeline explosion we first told you about yesterday. Alabama now under a state of emergency as crews repair the Colonial Pipeline. 1 worker was killed and 5 others were injured when an excavator hit the pipe.
In the fire, what appears to be a gas line explosion. Scene is still having explosions at this time, cannot access the scene location.
Well, that pipeline supplies gasoline for millions of people on the East Coast. A separate leak back in September created massive shortages and price spikes throughout the Southeast. A disturbing warning for all parents. Please check your children's Halloween candy. This comes after police found needles and nails inside candy from trick-or-treating. You can see a nail right there sticking out of a Snickers bar. A parent in Michigan says her daughter bit into a thumbtack while eating a piece of candy. That is just terrible. And then in New Jersey, another family finding a sewing needle inside a Tootsie Roll and a small pin inside a Kit Kat. You can't be too safe. Please check it out. Well, the U2 frontman Bono is adding another award to his trophy case, but it is not what you would expect. Glamour magazine's first ever Man of the Year. Bono honored for his decades of humanitarian work helping the world's poorest women. Well, this year's other honorees include the singer Gwen Stefani, Olympian Simone Biles, and the founders of Black Lives Matter. And those are your headlines. I'll see you back here in just a little bit.
All right.
Thanks.
And Brian would concur. Brian loves Bono.
Right. He does not return my calls, which I find strange. I do really do. I'm going to have to talk to the Edge from now on. Hey, are you ready? You ready for some football? A lot of fans are saying we are not ready this year, and it turns out baseball ratings are soaring. Heading into the World Series Game 7 tonight, NFL ratings are down, and the baseball ratings are up close to 40%. For football, many are blaming Colin Kaepernick when it began to start taking a knee during the national anthem.
Well, here to react to that is Fox NFL Sunday host and author of that new book right there. It's called Losing Isn't Everything, Kurt Menefee. Kurt, good to see you. Thanks for being here on the Curvy Couch. Do you think it is Colin Kaepernick's fault that ratings are down when it comes to football?
No, if you look at it, I know that that's kind of the narrative that's gone out there, but the numbers don't bear it out. If you want to look at it and look at it from a factual standpoint, I double-checked last night with our Fox researcher just to make sure I had my numbers correct. And when you take a look at it, people say they're boycotting games, and that's what the surveys say. But the same number of people are watching games that have been watching for the years. They just aren't watching as many minutes, as many out-of-town games. If you look at CBS and Fox, which have the hometown teams and show the most games, Fox, at least before last Sunday, was down 1%. CBS is down single digits as well. Where the numbers are bad are those national games. Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football. Those games have been crap. I think that's part of it. But I do think the election is a large part of it as well. Because if you go back and you look at the years of 2000 when the Gore-Bush race was close, 2012 and this year are the only 3 years this entire century that the numbers have been down. If it's not up after the election, then I think you've got to look at other issues.
You're saying people are actually tuned into the news channel, watching the news, so you're a little angry at us that we're taking your audience.
No, because it's Fox, we're doing fine.
That's right.
For football, people are still watching their hometown teams.
Right.
They're still, if you're a Giants fan and the Giants are playing the Eagles, you're watching the Eagles.
Plus,
the Giants-Eagles. But you're not watching the out-of-town game. That's what happened.
Yeah, we won't be watching the Eagles. We'll be watching the Giants.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Kurt, there are also so many football games on television now.
I think it's a major problem.
Waters it down.
You know, here's another thing, too, and I think the NFL really has to address, and Mark Cuban hit on it a couple of years ago when he put out the famous line, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Yep. The NFL, I think the product, and I shouldn't say this being a broadcaster of an NFL, from an NFL network, but there's so many games on that when there is a bad game on Monday night or Thursday night, you're like, I got more days of watching. I'm not going to watch this right now and stay here. I've got to dedicate time to my family. And then you throw in high school football on Friday nights and college football on Saturday. You can oversaturate it.
And you guys got the Super Bowl this year.
Yes,
You're
sir.
the host of Fox NFL Sunday, and Terry Bradshaw considers himself the big personality. We like you better. A lot better. Congratulations on doing this book. Losing Isn't Everything. Kurt, you're focusing on people who've had their heart broken in sports, a lot of times famously. Perhaps people remember this pitch to Hank Aaron breaking Babe Ruth's record. Let's listen. He's the guy who tossed the pitch.
Yeah, because that's kind of the focus of the book. I want to go back to people who have been part of major losses or crushing losses and find out how they dealt with it, because I think there's a lesson in it for all of us and how we overcome bad moments in our life, because we all have it. Whether it's at work, whether it's with the kids, whatever it is. And Al Downing was an interesting guy because I grew up an Atlanta Braves fan. And one of my first sports memories was Hank Aaron hitting that home run. I was 8 years old. But Downing was a guy who, he was able to handle it fine. He was older when he pitched. He was in his 30s when that happened. His mother had died when he was 7 years old. And that was one of the things he said to me. He goes, look, my mom died when I was 7 years old. He came up in the 1960 and 61, pitching in Richmond in the South as a black man and heard a lot of bad things. He goes, so for me to give up a home run towards the end of my career was not the worst thing that ever happened to me. So I was able to deal with it much better than other people were. People around him were the ones that had issues with it. And I think that's one of the interesting things about the book as well, is you find out these moments didn't just affect those that are involved in it. It affected their families and their friends, because we're all protective of people that we love when they get hurt.
David Tyree catches a ball on his head. But who gave up that catch that enables the Giants to win the Super Bowl and the Patriots to lose?
Well, and remember, the Patriots were going for a perfect season. They were going to be 19-0 if they won that game, and they had the lead with less than a minute left. And David Tyree makes that catch. Rodney Harrison was there trying to defend it. And Harrison talked about the fact that he's in every picture right here that you see of it, that it affected him and his family until his wife and his mom snapped him out. But his thing was that Junior Seau was a member of that team, and Seau was at the end of his career, 19 years in the NFL. And when Harrison came in as a rookie with San Diego, Seau had taken him under his wing. And so he wanted to win a Super Bowl for Junior. Junior didn't win one that year, wound up retiring, later on committed suicide. They believe he had CTE, and that affected him more than anything else, because that was his friend. And again, it's all about the emotion.
In perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
The stories behind the losses. Losing Isn't Everything is the name of the book.
Thank you, Steve.
Right.
Kurt Benner. Thank you very much.
Send this book to one of the losers next Tuesday.
Their whole staff may need a few of them.
Right, thank you. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
All right, straight ahead, President Obama pumping up the economy while stumping for Hillary Clinton.
We turned job losses into 15 million new jobs. And last year, incomes went up faster than any time that they've been keeping records.
Well, that sounds great, but our next guest is breaking down the numbers, and a Hillary Clinton presidency does not look good for the average American's wallet.
And what happens when Donald Trump makes a campaign stop at a local Wawa? The reaction is trending this morning. Say it with me. It's fun to say. Wawa.
Hey, Brian.
6 days to go, President Obama has been out on the campaign trail trying to get people excited to vote for Hillary Clinton and hyping the economy that he has overseen for the last 8 years.
We turned job losses into 15 million new jobs. Poverty went down faster than any time since 1968. We've seen an America that went from too many people uninsured to now 20 million people with health care who didn't have it before.
Okay, well, he's making things sound pretty good, right? Is it really as rosy as the president is painting it? And what's it going to mean for your wallet if she wins? Brian Brenberg is the chairman of business and finance at the King's College here in New York City. Well, Brian, you just heard the president. That sounds great. Is it accurate?
He's telling one part of the story, but he's conveniently leaving out a few things. He's leaving out the growth in debt. He's leaving out the number of long-term unemployed, people stuck in part-time jobs. He's leaving out the number of people who've dropped out of the labor force. He's leaving out food stamp enrollment. There's another side of the story that he's not telling here.
But he did mention health care, but health care, I don't know if I would be touting that.
I wouldn't be talking about that right now. The premium increases, the deductible increases, insurers dropping out of the market. That's the bad news story that's been added to the last 7 years of a difficult economy that's really got people thinking about what do I want to see over the next 4 years.
Yeah. When you look at, I heard Mrs. Clinton say yesterday, my plans don't add a penny to the deficit. Here's some of the stuff on her wish list right now. $350 billion for tuition-free college. Sounds great. $275 billion for infrastructure. Sounds great. $300 billion for family leave. $60 billion for clean energy, although we've spent plenty on that, and that hasn't worked out so well. What do you think about that?
Well, she says she's going to raise taxes by about $1.5 trillion on the wealthy to pay for that. But you know what? That doesn't even handle the deficits that she's already going to inherit. The debt's going to increase by over $9 trillion on her watch. So it's not good enough just to pay for your new spending. You have to pay for the fact that we have all this built-in spending from things like Obamacare that are going to send the debt way up over the next 10 years.
And ultimately, don't you think she's going to have to wind up raising taxes, and it's going to wind up hitting everybody?
Really, you can't balance that budget on the backs of the rich. They're simply not going to pay for it. They're going to find other ways to invest their money. So I think the likelihood is the middle class is going to pay for this one way or the other.
Sure, and we heard earlier in the program, we ran a soundbite where she said, if you know somebody who's going to vote for Donald Trump, you need to stage an intervention. And then she went through the litany of how he used the tax rules to his advantage. Those are the rules.
Yeah, you know, when you're going to go after somebody for playing by the rules, I don't think you've got a winning argument there. They should be talking about the policy issues. Who's going to grow this economy over the next 4 years? I don't think more government spending. I don't think higher taxes is a route to do that.
All right. Professor, thank you very much for joining us.
Always good to see you.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Coming up, stunning new developments after emails show 10 hack attacks on Hillary Clinton's illegal server in just 2 days. 10 in 2. Lieutenant General Michael Flynn is furious. He joins us in 10 minutes. Then Governor Scott Walker facing a firestorm of controversy for this tweet. Carly Shimka is here with why people think Walker just endorsed Hillary. But did he?
I love that guy that flips.
The internet goes wild when a tweet from one of Hillary Clinton's strongest critics is interpreted as an endorsement for Hillary Clinton.
Yep, here with a breakdown of what's trending this morning. Fox News headlines 24/7 key reporter. XM 115 is where you find her. But right now she's with us. Carly Shimkus, welcome back.
Carly.
We got to find out what's happening in Wisconsin. What's going on?
Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker's anti-Clinton tweet backfired in a big way. So he tried to make a case for voters to vote for Donald Trump. He tweeted, if you like the past 8 years, vote Hillary Clinton. Well, the problem is a lot of people thought he was endorsing Clinton in that tweet. Chris Jackson writes, this is going to be your most popular tweet, but not in the way you hoped. Evan says, I didn't know who Scott Walker was, and as soon as I saw that tweet, I thought he was an HRC supporter. And Kevin tweets, I'm Scott Walker, and I'm confused by this message.
It is
not a good one.
It is a little confusing. Maybe there are people out there who like the last 8 years, and so they would think that's exactly
a lot of
what
people, a lot of Democrats responded to that tweet and said, thank you for the tip. So I don't think that's what he was looking for.
And apparently we are not the only ones that like the Wawa. The food at Wawa. Donald Trump.
The coffee.
His daughter, Tiffany.
Yeah, picture this. You're standing in a Wawa doing some of your normal shopping, crossing off the shopping list, when in walks in Donald Trump, his daughter Tiffany, and legendary Indiana basketball coach Bobby Knight.
Amazing.
Apparently he didn't buy anything, but he stopped to take some pictures. Those pictures are going viral online. Other members of his entourage, though, reportedly picked up some tasty cakes.
Wait a minute. You're saying they went in, they didn't buy anything. They just went window shopping at Wawa?
Donald Trump didn't buy anything personally. You know, you always look for what the candidate's going to buy.
All right.
And you, go ahead.
I was going to say from Wawa back to Wisconsin.
Wawa to Wisconsin.
Tim Kaine, with one comment, could have lost the election in that state for his woman.
He made a crucial error. He asked a reporter What's a cheese curd?
Oh.
That's like asking a reporter in Pennsylvania, what's a cheese steak?
Right.
You got to know your food on the campaign trail. So Tim Kaine responded to the reporter who tweeted about it saying, "We didn't have cheese curds growing up in Kansas City, but man, have I been missing out."
Trying to redeem himself.
Now this story does have a happy ending though, because he was spotted at a restaurant later that day eating cheese curds.
Of course he
with
was.
radish, with a horseradish.
Well,
which
of
I've never
course
had a
he
cheese curd
was.
with a horseradish before.
You can get
but
it at Wawa.
I guess so.
Well, so what's the theory then? The theory is know what's indigenous to the people of that state.
Remember
that
when?
would be smart.
Yes.
Sure. Remember when John Kerry was down in Philly and he went to either Geno's or Pat's and he ordered a cheesesteak and he asked for
A sub?
Swiss cheese on it.
And he called it a sub, I think, not a hoagie.
Oh, he did?
Man, it was just
There should
it was
be
a catastrophe.
there should be somebody in your campaign completely dedicated to teaching you the food of that area, because
Why
it
not?
always becomes a big viral topic if you get it wrong.
All right. When in New York, do not eat the pizza with
With a fork.
Exactly right.
Exactly.
All right. Carly, thank you very
And
much.
know what pizza is. if
Yes.
you're coming to New York.
Exactly, and how to pronounce it. Hey, guess who's coming up next? You see them all the time introducing Donald Trump at his live events. Now he's going to be with us in studio. How do I know? I recognize the hall. He is Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, and he is here live.
While they were just sitting in their patrol cars in 2 different locations. A manhunt is now underway for a killer. The breaking details in just moments.
Meanwhile, 6 days until the election, and the ghosts of Bill Clinton's past just came back to haunt him and haunt Hillary as well in a brand new October surprise. This one on the first day of November. Not from WikiLeaks, but this one from the FBI.
Plus, Donald Trump has a new message for America. It is not too late to change your mind and your vote.
This is a good time to make an important public service announcement. You can change your vote to Donald Trump. Will make America great again, okay?
All right, we're live on the campaign trail to talk more about that, because your mornings are better because you chose to watch with friends.
Fox News alert this morning, a cold-blooded cop killer on the run at this hour after shooting 2 police officers in Iowa, sparking fears that more officers will be murdered. Both officers were just sitting helplessly in their patrol cars in 2 separate locations.
Yep, the shootings just happened 20 minutes apart near a high school just outside Des Moines. One of the patrol cars was riddled with bullets.
I actually used to live 3 blocks away from where one of those police officers were shot. Now, their fellow officers, while visibly shaken, vowing to find the dangerous killer who is still, at this hour, on the run.
In all appearances, it looks just like that these officers were ambushed. On the surface right now, just like I said, we're just a few hours into this, it doesn't look like there was any interaction between these officers and whoever the coward is that shot them while they sat in their cars. That's the best we got that we can explain the scene right now. There's definitely some danger out there. There's somebody out there shooting police officers. We hope we find him before anybody else gets hurt.
All the schools in that area, they're shut down today. Breaking details are coming in by the minute, so stay with us for the latest on this horrific story.
Let's bring in Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. You know, he's a big supporter of Donald Trump, been on the trail with him a lot. The one thing, General, that we always notice about Donald Trump, especially over the last 2 weeks, he reacts to the news.
Yeah.
And the news now is law and order.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is an unbelievable tragedy. So you got these, you know, 2 great police officers that, as I guess the chief that just said, looks like they were targeted, they were ambushed. I mean, the assault on our law enforcement professionals in this country is out of control. And I would love to see the leadership in our country today come out and say, look, this has got to end. Whoever did this particular shooting of these 2 great police officers, and I'll tell you, as we have gone around the country and in the, you know, in this experience that I'm, you know, having with Donald Trump, the law enforcement community is you know, reaching out in such a big way to him because of the, you know, the compassion and frankly the support that he has shown to them to be able to say the kinds of things that we need to say. So this is just another tragedy, another example of the lack of safety that we have on our streets in our country for these police officers. My God.
You know, how did the anti-cop narrative get so loud?
Yeah, I mean, it gets loud when leadership doesn't step in. Okay, the anti-police narrative, the anti-law enforcement narrative, the anti-rule of law narrative gets louder when leadership does not step in. And the leadership at the local level, particularly by our chiefs of police, has been superb. It's the leadership from the White House, and you have to step in immediately when you see this.
Is it a political thing?
Well, I don't want to. I don't know. I don't know if it's a political thing, but what I know is that when we have police officers being ambushed and killed in the streets of our cities and in this country, it has got to stop.
Yeah, we need to say a prayer for each of those families.
We do.
And the cops that work in that area, because this gunman's still on the loose.
Right.
By the way, I would love just building what you said, I'd love for the president to say something.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, come on.
I would love for him to say that, listen, it doesn't matter what color you are. If an attack on law and order is an attack on our society.
Right.
But let's just pivot to something about this election. With 6 days left, a couple of things happen. The FBI comes out and makes the announcement about the discovery of 650,000 emails. And then yesterday, responding to a Freedom of Information Act, they went back to 2001 and put forward documents about the Mark Rich pardon that Bill Clinton okayed. How important is that?
I mean, this just shows the continuation of the incredible dark cloud of scandals that sits over the Clinton machine. I mean, I describe this as the largest organized crime investigation probably in decades that the FBI is having to go through. You're talking about the Anthony Weiner pedophilia scandal. You're talking about the reopening of a national security investigation against Hillary Clinton, who is, 4 or 5 days now away from potentially being a president. Give me a break. I mean, when is enough going to be enough for these people? In addition to the WikiLeaks, in addition to more stuff that's going to come out. I understand that there's talk about the quote unquote 33,000 emails coming out today or tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I mean, the 33,000 are probably in the 650,000. I mean, this is unprecedented. It's unbelievable.
You know what?
You mentioned the emails, and we were just learning this morning, Judicial Watch recently discovered that Hillary Clinton's server was the target of 10 hack attempts in a 2-day period. This was back in 2010, and the hackers were trying to log on as different people within her campaign, like Doug Bann and Abbott. What's your reaction?
Right. Well, all this stuff, and then the things that we are seeing in the email discussions that are coming out. I mean, even those, it's disgusting. This is a disgusting way to run. I mean, I would never allow this in any military organization at all. Any type of the kind of conversations that are being had in these emails it's unbelievable. I would tell you that the whole effort that's going on when they talk about the cyber attacks and the hacking. I mean, this has been going on for many, many years. So for any of these people to be talking about what has happened or wouldn't happen, I mean, to me, this is just unbelievable. So I mean, what we're facing is an incredible level of scandal, criminal behavior. I mean, there's serious criminal behavior that is directly related to Hillary Clinton's actions.
Foundation?
In the foundation, I mean, everything.
You know what?
It's funny, but it's all coming together. This 650,000, it's like Anthony Weiner is going to end up, tying all this together because he probably was using this as a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Well, apparently he is cooperating. We don't know exactly what the cooperation means. Yeah. But there's a story out this morning that, given the fact that he was sexting, he's in big trouble for sexting with at least one underage teenager. Now there's a report that he could have been the perfect target for hacking into her server because his then wife was one of the users.
I mean, there's two other things here that I think, in my experience with investigations, which I've had quite a bit actually in the area of espionage and also just the extortion side. So you have elements here that are so dangerous for our national security because you likely have classified information, highly classified information in this 650,000. So if Anthony Weiner had access to them, that means there are many, many other people that had access to them.
Just as mentioned, the United States evidently had
the extortion.
The blackmail. The President of the United States evidently had an alias too, and he was going back and forth with Hillary Clinton on her private server. But, General, when you talk about espionage and stuff that you've been involved in, it does bother me that we're doing this off Julian Assange's hack, because this guy's an international criminal.
Yeah.
Does it bother you?
Yeah, it bothers me, but it also, what bothers me more, it's not about Julian Assange, it's not about Russia, it's not about Anthony Weiner, it's about Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is the one that made the decision to have an unclassified server in some closet somewhere to do government, very, very sensitive government business for 4 years.
And that's why Barack Obama should be the angriest. I hired you to do a job, and you did all this. Now, here's the other thing.
He should be, but in a way, Brian, he's caught. He's caught because the leaks of information that are coming out are going to show, unless they pull him for national security reasons, they're going to show that our president was in communication with Hillary Clinton, and in fact, he said he wasn't. He said he found out about it through the media. So
sure, and with the WikiLeaks stuff, this is where we are in society with technology now. This is like the whistleblower of 2016.
Yeah. That's right.
General, the other thing is that what makes this so unique, I was thinking about it this morning, is that if you didn't like Al Gore, you didn't vote for Al Gore. You don't like Bush, you don't like Bush. You didn't like Barack Obama, you didn't vote for Barack Obama. You wanted to find out more information, but it was just, let's just find out more information to find out what kind of agenda he'll have.
Right.
This is different.
Yeah,
this is what are you hiding? How deep does this go? Yeah. How else are you involved? What do you really mean? How are you rigging the primaries in order to get the nomination? The more you look, the uglier it gets. Like it or not, Donald Trump is so transparent. He got himself in a lot of trouble between his tweets and what he says and answering questions maybe too candidly.
Yeah,
a little too honest, you mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, journalism is under attack this election for sure, because there's been so much. Frankly, there's just been deceit in your business, and I'm being very frank. This has become a social media election, and I'm telling you, you look at you guys pay attention to it. You report on it all the time. This is a digital election, and it has changed. And all this leak stuff. If it's showing one thing, is that you cannot hide anything. Yeah. And so it's like I've said it publicly. Hack my emails, because I would love to have somebody put out what I say, because what I'm saying right here is what I say in my emails. I don't disparage people like all the kinds of words that we're hearing said in the emails.
General, there's a brand new ABC Washington Post tracking poll that has just come out in the last 10 minutes or so, and apparently on the question of honesty and trustworthiness, now Donald Trump eclipses Hillary Clinton. He's in front of her at this point, according to what was just whispered in my ear. Yeah. I got to ask you something that Mr. Trump was talking about out on the trail yesterday. Yeah. He said, look, some of you may have already early voted for Hillary Clinton. It's not too late to change your vote.
Right.
How many people, as you go out, have you met or heard say, I wish I could have a do-over on that?
Yeah, well, the other day...
Is this a big number we're talking about?
I don't know if it's a big number, but I think that people ought to have I'm glad that those states have the opportunity to show up to the polls, because I guess if you show up to the polls on polling day, if you've previously voted, you can re-vote. You can recast your vote, and I guess there's 5 states. I think that that's a big deal. I don't know what the numbers are going to be, but I think it's going to be very interesting to see what those numbers are, to see how many people re-voted.
If you look at the trends on Google, it is interesting, because no one's really checking it until the latest investigation drops on the 31st. Then all of a sudden a spike goes up for people Googling, how do you change your vote?
Right. So I think you're going to see a number of people recast their vote, and I think you're going to see it.
You can't explain it. You lived it, and you're getting briefed along with Donald Trump in many cases. But it's hard to take your eye off what's happening in the world. Yeah. ISIS calling for attacks on the West Coast. Mosul about to fall. We're turning this over to Iran. The challenge is what's happening in Syria. Russia on the march. China beginning to expand. When Donald Trump looks at this, does he know what he's getting into?
Yeah, he does. And it's, this is an incredibly serious time for the United States of America, and it's a very, very important time for the U.S. to demonstrate leadership. We have such a deficit of leadership right here at home and around the world, and that has got to change. And Donald Trump, that's his big message is make America great again, and his bigger message is we are going to start leading again.
Yeah, well, a week from today, next Wednesday morning, we'll know who the next president is.
That's great.
General, thank you very much.
Where are you heading now?
Back out the door.
You're back on the road with him?
Back on the road, yeah.
Wow. Meanwhile, I know we're going straight to Election Day. Remember, 6 days from now, Fox News has Election Day covered all day. Fox and Friends is going to start at 4 a.m., and Fox News will have continuous live coverage through the nights as the votes come in. We know you want to know how every state comes in, so stay here on Fox, your official American election headquarters.
Thanks so much, General. Meanwhile, coming up straight ahead, 6 days until Election Day, and Donald Trump has a new message for America. It is not too late to change your mind.
This is a good time to make an important public service announcement. You can change your vote to Donald Trump will make America great again, okay?
We are live on the campaign trail with Donald Trump. That'll be next. What do you mean?
Donald Trump is seizing momentum in the final 6 days of this election, now heading to the must-win state of Florida.
The Republican nominee telling early Clinton voters it's not too late to change their minds.
You know, John Roberts would probably like to change his mind over this assignment. He said, yeah, I'll follow Trump around. It's turned out to be a really crazy ride, and he joins us this morning from Miami.
You know what? It's not like getting on one of those roller coasters where you're at the top of the first hill, Steve, and say, oh, was this a good idea? We love it. This is the most incredible election that I've ever followed, and I've been doing every one since 1996. Good morning to you, Steve, Ainsley, Brian. Here we are in Miami this morning. It's the first of 3 stops in the Sunshine State that Donald Trump has got today. He's also here again tomorrow. 29 electoral votes. This is the big prize of all the battleground states, and it really could be said that if Donald Trump loses Florida, it's all over for him. But the polls are looking good. Real Clear Politics average of polls, he's up by a point. New York Times poll that was out a couple of days ago has got him up by 4. And Republicans are actually leading in the amalgamation of the early vote returns between absentee balloting and in person. He's got a big rally this morning at the Bayfront Amphitheater here along the shores of Biscayne Bay. Should be a good visual for him if he's trying to get enthusiasm pumped up in the Sunshine State. Yesterday, a big rally in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Donald Trump suggested to folks out there, hey, if you've already cast your ballot in certain states and you want to change your mind, it's not too late. Here's what he said.
For any Democratic voter who have already cast their ballots for Hillary Clinton and who are having a bad case of buyer's remorse. Wisconsin is one of several states where you can change your early ballot if you think you've made a mistake.
There's actually 7 states in total. Here they are: Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Michigan, New York, Connecticut, and Mississippi. The deadline in Minnesota passed yesterday. Got to have it in by close of business a week before the actual election. Today, Donald Trump will be going hard against the Clinton campaign on the FBI reopening its investigation. John Podesta talking about dumping these emails. But of course, as he did yesterday in Valley Forge, he'll be making Obamacare a big issue with so many folks across the country facing double-digit increases. Then these absolutely astronomical deductibles that a lot of people are looking at, $12,000, $14,000 for some plans. You know, Mike Pence yesterday saying in Valley Forge it's time for Republicans to come home around this issue. The subtle suggestion there that even if you're not fully on board with Donald Trump, be fully on board with this issue. It's one that Republicans can vote on. Ainsley, Brian, Steve.
All right. Thanks, John. I'm just imagining all these people who work for the Election Commission where folks are coming in saying, I want to change my ballot. And they're like, oh, let me go look under the K's for Kilmeade and find your ballot.
I threw that one out already.
Sure. Now, one state you can't change your mind is Ohio, where you wonder if John Kasich would like to change
his vote.
Yeah, because he did write in John McCain, which isn't going to count because John McCain is not one of the people who's actually.
I wonder if
he's not running.
Did he use the same pen he used to sign the pledge to say he would vote for the nominee?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. All right. Meanwhile, straight ahead, the president blowing off the latest Hillary Clinton investigation.
Has she made mistakes? Of course, so have I. There's nobody in the public arena over the course of 30 years that doesn't make some.
Are Democrats in denial? A debate next.
Before dinner.
Less than a week to go, 6 days until Election Day, and Democrats are still standing by Hillary Clinton despite her latest FBI woes.
Has she made mistakes? Of course, so have I. There's nobody in the public arena over the course of 30 years that doesn't make some. But she is a fundamentally good and decent person who knows what she's doing and will be an outstanding president.
So, are some Democrats just in denial for a fair and balanced debate? Let's bring in the vice chair of the National Diversity Council for Trump, Brunel Donald Shea, joins us from Chicago, and Fox News contributor Jamu Green, who was a 2008 Clinton campaign advisor. Good morning, ladies. Thank you both for joining us.
Good morning. God bless you and God bless America.
Indeed. All right, Jamu, let's start with you. We just heard the president say Hillary Clinton has made mistakes in the past. You know, ever since the Comey surprise of last Friday, a lot of people are going, I don't know. And in fact, some of her support has weakened a bit. What do you think?
I think that there were 70,000 activists and volunteer shifts booked this weekend for the Hillary campaign, and for the last 4 days of the campaign, they have something like 750,000 shifts booked. It's interesting to ask if Democrats are in denial. Donald Trump's last salvo to the American people are, one, you can change your vote.
Which is true.
Two, he's having Mike Pence talk longer than him in Pennsylvania because they're still trying to corral Republican voters. This is a man who looks at preparing for anything, whether it's a debate or get out the vote. He looks at it with disdain. What do you do in a campaign? You raise the money, you build the ground game, and now he is trying to find voters, seek them out. The Hillary Clinton campaign, they are turning out their voters.
Okay.
They've contacted them. They know where they are, and they are focused on that. So there's no denial. It's just the execution and the final days, finally, of a pretty well-run campaign.
Indeed. All right, Jammu, in a number of states, you can actually change your vote if you have buyer's remorse. Brunel, what do you think? Are some Democrats in denial over Hillary Clinton's problems?
I believe they are in denial. And, you know, when you've got the top person, the president, who's supposed to be the example for the nation, telling us that this person is the most qualified with 5 FBI Bureau investigations, 2 open investigations, the Wiener pedophilia investigation, as well as the pay-to-play with the Clinton Foundation, as well as the emails reopened. When you've got our top person not saying step down, not, you know, leading in morality and ethics, why would you expect the rest of the party to fall in, you know, to do the right thing? But what I would say is this: the Democratic Party has sent out people to cause violence at rallies. That's been ratified. They have not given us any reason with this open borders through Hillary Clinton, with the Supreme Court picks that won't be conservative, with she's never created a private sector job in her life. Donald Trump has created over 60,000 private sector jobs. He's got so many reasons why he should be the next president, and we're not in denial. He's not under investigation. We're voting for the one that's not under investigation.
And Brunel would know something about Democratic politics. She's
not
been
FBI investigation.
She's been a lifelong Democrat. Jammu, I want to ask you about this new ABC Washington Post tracking poll that has just come out in the last half hour. And what it shows is that Donald Trump now is regarded by more Americans to be more honest and trustworthy. And you got to figure part of that is regarding the FBI stuff and everything we have learned from the WikiLeaks, which has been very embarrassing.
Look, Secretary Clinton is the first person to say that she has to work to continue to build and rebuild trust with the American people. And when you look at what is happening in every single swing state, and certainly the polls getting closer, that's something that the Clinton campaign was expecting. This is going to come down to who has better prepared to get out their vote. And Donald Trump, however you think about him, when you think of what moms say to their kids before a test, it's you study, you prepare, you do what you need to do for these last 6 days. And unfortunately, the Trump campaign did not do that. And that's why you have so many voters in early voting states who are basically giving their votes to Hillary Clinton. And the desperation of Donald Trump to say, change your vote. Have we ever heard anything so desperate?
Listen, this has been a crazy election. Who knows what's going to happen in the last 6 days? But Brunel, I'll give you the final word. But, you know, Jammu's making the point that Hillary's got the apparatus, but at the same time, she's also got these falling poll numbers when it comes to enthusiasm. In the last week, Democrats, I think, are about 10% less enthusiastic about going to vote for Hillary.
Well, what I would say is we already know through WikiLeaks that she had already worked with the biased media, mainstream media. She worked against them with the pollsters, all of this stuff, special interest corporations, all against Donald Trump. My fellow Americans stood up for all the rest of us, and then we won't even talk about the FBI agents who are leaking information, telling this country, do not hire this woman. She is corrupt. She is a criminal. She is under criminal investigation. corruption. And so what I would say is this. You can't talk about ethics and morals when you've got FBI agents crawling all over you. And so what I would say to the American people is get out of your emotions, look at your fellow Americans, and vote for the country. Vote to save the nation from corruption.
And that's
when
the
we're
sound of
strong, the rest of the world is strong.
Everybody needs to go out and vote.
That's the sound of an American patriot. You better get you some research. You need to be reading WikiLeaks.
All right. Jammu and Brunel, thank you very much for joining us. A spirited debate today.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless you. Meanwhile, coming up, Bill Clinton doesn't remember calling Obamacare crazy.
What? You say it was the craziest thing, so why wouldn't he repeal it? That is not at all what I said. No. Oh, really? Go read it.
Well, we're not going to read it. We're going to refresh his memory with some videotape coming up. And every vote counts in crucial battleground states like Ohio. That's Matt Finn chatting up diners in Columbus. So what do they think? We're going to find out live from Columbus. And everybody please.
So you've got this crazy system where all of a sudden 25 million more people have health care, and then the people are out there busting it sometimes 60 hours a week, wind up with their premiums doubled and their coverage cut in half. It's the craziest thing in the world.
Okay, so there he is, Bill Clinton, saying it's the craziest thing in the world regarding Obamacare, and yet he forgot that yesterday at an event in Florida. Here's a heckler and the former president.
What are you asking? What?
You said it was the craziest thing, so why wouldn't we repeal it?
That is not at all what I said. No. Oh, really? Go read it. Oh, really? Go read it. What I said, and don't read it over the internet. Don't read it over the internet. Get the whole thing. Let me just point out. Wait. First, I campaigned hard for that law. Second, I risked losing the Congress to pass universal health care. Thirdly, I defended President Obama in 2010 and 2012, and he went up 5 points in the polls after I defended what he did.
Okay, a little bit of anger there. That's a little bit misplaced. By the way, it was so convincing that he was disavowing Obamacare and saying it wasn't working. People thought it was a tactic. People said, "Wait a second. I think the former president, is shielding his wife.
He's giving him the okay to
giving
do
the
it.
okay to say Obamacare doesn't work because it was beginning to tank her candidacy as November 1st was coming, and obviously it's here, and people were not signing up, and the rates are being jacked up, sadly, for Democrats in battleground states.
But he definitely did say it was the craziest thing in the world. What was curious, though, is he said, don't read it on the internet, which is apparently they can't control. They don't have as many media friends colluding with them.
Well, that just goes to show it doesn't matter what we say. We can always say that we didn't say it later on and embarrass that poor girl who was actually accurate. All right, with less than a week to go, the race is tightening in the Buckeye State. Today, both campaigns sending surrogates to Ohio.
Right now, Donald Trump holds a slight lead in the must-win state of Ohio, something Mitt Romney was not able to do, nor was John McCain.
Whenever I think of Columbus, Ohio, I think of Tommy's Diner, and today Matt Finn is right there, where I'm sure they've got the best cup of coffee in town, Matt.
I've already had two. It's very good. And to your point, this place is legendary for politics and pancakes. The latest this morning, Donald Trump is ahead by 2.5 points, according to the average of polls. Both Trump and Clinton are deploying their biggest weapons in their arsenals to campaign here in Ohio. The president campaigned here yesterday for Clinton. He hammered Trump, but avoided mentioning perhaps the biggest threat to her presidency, the FBI's renewed probe into her email system. Eric Trump will be here today holding two events on behalf of his dad. And in these final days, Clinton's ground game is considered extremely visible, strong. While Trump has not received much love from the Republican state party here, Ohio's own governor, John Kasich, voted for John McCain on Monday. I want to talk to some of these gentlemen. Our friend George. George, could either party send any surrogate on either side to persuade your vote in these final days?
No, I've made up my mind. I'm definitely going to go for Trump.
A lot of talk about independent votes here and undecideds here in Ohio. Do you think that any surrogate could sway their vote?
I personally don't think that there's anybody that could come to Columbus and change somebody that's already made up their mind. No.
George, what do you do for a living?
I'm a retired firefighter.
Excellent. Thank you guys for your time. Enjoy your breakfast. So there you have it, guys. We did talk to a professor yesterday at The Ohio State University who specializes in voter behavior, and he says typically undecided voters this late in the game tend to vote for their party, and that no matter what type of campaigning happens in the final few days, they tend to stick with either Republican or Democratic candidates. Back to you in New York.
Yeah. There's so much breaking, though, Matt. You wonder if this might be just a little bit different every year. Matt Finn, thanks so much.
I think minds can be changed this last week.
Because, you know, WikiLeaks, Julian Assange came out with that statement that I'm going to drop something that's going to put Hillary Clinton in jail.
Yep. Stay tuned. It's just getting good. All right. It's
just getting good.
20 minutes before the top of the hour. Heather joins us right now with a terrible story out of West Des Moines.
I certainly do. Good morning. We're getting some new information on what happened there overnight. Breaking at this hour, there is a massive manhunt. It is intensifying right now for a cold-blooded killer wanted for gunning down 2 police officers in what police describe as violent ambush-style attacks. Police near Des Moines, Iowa, say both victims were sitting alone in their patrol cars just blocks apart. One had been responding to a report of shots fired in a neighborhood, and we have now just learned that police are developing a profile of the suspect or the suspects. Officers now warning that there is a clear and present danger against other officers in the area, with the killer or killers still on the loose.
Like some danger out there. There's somebody out there shooting police officers. We hope we find him before anybody else gets hurt.
Yeah, we certainly hope that. All schools in the area are shut down today. Officers there are working in pairs as they face a dangerous threat. Lots of other parts of the country have started doing that as well. We're staying on this story every step of the way, and we'll bring you the breaking details as they unfold. We are praying for the families of those 2 officers killed overnight. Well, more evidence of the dangers that our police face every single day. Disturbing new video shows a suspect violently attacking a police officer, punching him, and throwing him on the ground before taking off in his patrol car. Police in Ohio say it started when the suspect stole an SUV, taking it on a joyride as he crashed into other cars along the way. That officer is okay. The suspect still on the run. And
All right, the left-leaning organization called the Southern Poverty Law Center has long targeted extremists and hate groups, and now it's taking aim at moderates. The civil rights group's so-called Field Guide to Anti-Muslim Extremists lists 15 moderate Muslim reformers as propagandists and hate mongers, and a friend of our show is on that list. Here with the dubious honor to talk about it and set the record straight is national security analyst Ryan Morrow, who's at the Law Center who calls a Muslim who's called a Muslim basher. It also brands the organization, the Clarion Project, a hate group. Ryan, what's your reaction to being on this list?
Part of me wasn't surprised because I saw the increase in attacks when I was training Homeland Security professionals last week. They went after me and said that I'm an anti-Muslim extremist, and they also went after 2 Muslims on our advisory board. Muslims. And they said that they are anti-Muslim. So accuracy doesn't really seem to be the Southern Poverty Law Center's thing, and they are also counterfeit progressives. Because what could be more progressive of a thing to do than to support moderate Muslims standing up against anti-Semitic groups and extremist groups linked to the Muslim Brotherhood.
So they went on to say, fueling this hatred has been the propaganda. This is how they label some moderates. The vast majority are completely baseless, produced and popularized by a network of anti-Muslim extremists and their enablers. These men and women have shamelessly exploited terrorist attacks in the Syrian refugee crisis, among other things, to demonize the entire Islamic faith. Have you done that?
Absolutely not. We work with Muslims all the time. Like I said, we have 2 Muslims on our advisory board. Some of my best intelligence sources are Muslims. I've even provided training and intelligence on threats to Muslims in the United States to the authorities.
I didn't
but
see
they're not going to say that.
I know. So Omar Mateen came out. And we hear the audio now of him saying that I'm basically a soldier of ISIS, and I'm doing this for the Zarnievs, who are the Boston bombers. But they wanted to make that an anti-gay act. When these terror attacks happen, they want to spin them another direction. When the Syrians come over, they want to show a child and say, well, you're anti-child.
Right. And so they want to make it so that you can't talk about ideology ever. Why? Because some of their friends are groups like the Council on American Islamic Relations and this other group, Jamaat al-Fuqara. And what's really hypocritical about all of this is that the Southern Poverty Law Center, if you look at their old publications, they will talk about the extremism of some of the same groups that I talk about. But then when I talk about it on Fox News, all of a sudden I'm a racist that's on par with KKK members and neo-Nazis.
And by the way, the big question right now in the stump with both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, they have opposite views of it, and that is the Syrian refugees coming here. So far, 67% more Syrian refugees pouring into the United States are 99% Muslim. There are a lot of Christians that have been displaced too. Yeah. We don't seem to be taking them, and a lot of these go 675% higher. But a lot of these are adults that are coming over here that are not properly screened.
Right, and so with the Syrian refugees, you have about 60%, they say, that are children, but then you don't have the proper ideological vetting that is necessary for the adults that are coming over. And so there was a report that was done that said that about 18% of the time when they do a prosecution related to ISIS, it involves someone that was granted asylum or is a refugee. So this is a significant problem, even though you'll have people like in the administration saying, well, no refugee has carried out an attack. That's not the right standard.
Not backing down? You're not worried about it?
No, I mean, anyone that gets involved in this, you have to realize that you might end up homeless, because who's going to hire someone labeled as an anti-Muslim extremist on a map with KKK groups?
Ryan Morrow, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, you'll always have a home here. We appreciate it. All right, coming up straight ahead on our rundown, the nominees aren't the only items on the ballot. There's health care, gun control, and a lot more to decide. We break down the top issues that you're about to face on Tuesday and vote for or against. But first, on this day in 1990, Vanilla Ice was topping the charts with Ice Ice Baby. Has he got eliminated from Dancing with the Stars yet? All right, he performed that hit for us this summer.